Hi there, and welcome to this review of the One Way UK Daily Devotionals for the 28th of March through to the 1st of April from John chapter 2 verse 14 down to John chapter 3 verse 2. We began with the scene of Jesus going into the temple area. He'd made a whip of cords and he drove out the money changers and the people who sold the animals for sacrifice. And we were thinking about how the way that when we take a puppet performance anywhere, well, we make a physical impact too, because often there are things to be moved, to be readjusted, so there's room for the stage and so on. Particularly that happens in the care homes and day centres that we go into. But there's something more important. It's very easy to make an impact when you're moving furniture. It's not always welcome. But what impact you're making on people's hearts? What's the result of the performance? How does it leave the people? In a better state than when you arrived? That's something for us to bear in mind. Jesus' impact went beyond turning over tables, however dramatic that was. On Tuesday, continuing in the series, A Life of Action, we considered the zeal of the Lord. Now we know that phrase, it comes from the Psalm 69, and it's applied to Jesus. Zeal for your house has eaten me up. But we went on and we looked at all the meanings of that word, and actually what it meant is that Jesus had a burning desire within him to do his Father's will. Is doing our Father's will, our Heavenly Father's will, uppermost in my mind? Would people describe us as being zealous for our God? Or are we a bit sort of slapdash? You know, a bit, why are we doing what we're doing? We need to ask ourselves that. And we need to make sure that we are constantly in vision for what we're doing. For example, you know, as a puppeteer, am I really in vision for what I'm doing? Do I really want the people who are seeing this performance to hear the words of the songs and to receive Jesus into their heart? Or am I just doing it to pass the time, or because I like puppetry? But that's a decision we've got to make for ourselves. On Wednesday, we moved on from the zealousness, and we consider that people of action remember the important things. And Jesus was asked by the Jews, what sign do you show us since you do these things? And Jesus answered and said to them, destroy this temple and in 3 days I will raise it up. Then the Jews said, it has taken 46 years to build this temple, and will you raise it up in 3 days? But he was speaking of the temple of his body. Now what came uppermost in Jesus' mind is interesting here, because he's talking about the sign. Well, you remember that in Matthew it's recorded, he said that no sign will be given to this generation except the sign of the prophet Jonah. For as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of the great fish, so will the Son of Man in 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. You know, so the Son of Man will be in the earth for 3 days and 3 nights. So essentially it's the same sort of subject, but in John he's actually picking up on the resurrection. It's the important thing. The Jews who challenged Jesus missed the point he was making, but his disciples remembered what he said later on. It's pretty clear they didn't understand at the time exactly what Jesus had said, but the important thing is they didn't forget it. And we need to remember the important things, because that is all part of a life of action. On Thursday, we learned that actions speak louder than words. It says in John 2:23 to 25, many believed in his name when they saw the signs which he did. And you see, people were really, their attention was grabbed by the things that Jesus did. Now I can tell people, as much as I like about my puppetry, I can attempt to describe performances, the puppets, the music that we use. But the positive reactions come when people actually see me do it. And there is something about that. You know, when we perform, people can then assess for themselves its value. They're not relying upon what I say, they are seeing it for themselves. And it's just an interesting point, I suppose, in picking up on this, that as my team performs, people frequently make kind and supportive comments. But the ones who really mean what they say are the ones who recommend us to other people, the ones who invite us back. The people we want to hear from are those who appreciate what we do and how it can be used effectively elsewhere. That's how actions can speak louder than words. Finally, we come to April Fool's Day. Well, there's nothing foolish about what we looked at on April Fool's Day, 1st of April. There was a man of the Pharisees named Nicodemus, a ruler of the Jews. This man came to Jesus by night and said to him, Rabbi, we know that you're a teacher come from God, for no one can do these signs that you do unless God is with him. Inevitably, in a life of action, we are drawn to Jesus, because that's where the action is. You know, he's the man. And, you know, it's like you go to where the man is and to get the action, and Jesus is the man. And we can be drawn out of curiosity, like the Greeks who came and said to Philip, Sir, we wish to see Jesus. We can be drawn out of necessity, like the woman who sought out Jesus, the woman who'd had a hemorrhage for 12 years and sought out Jesus for healing. And maybe Nicodemus had sought confirmation of the truth of what he and fellow Pharisees had come to believe, that Jesus was a teacher from God. The important thing for us is that Nicodemus did not hesitate to go to Jesus, even though it would have been a dangerous thing for a man in his position. The lesson we learn is that nothing or nobody should stop us going to Jesus. Why? Because Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. And no man shall come to the Father except through him. Have a great weekend, and I look forward to being with you next week.